What's up guys, Wiredzero here, and in today's video, we're going to be setting up a Raspberry Pi web kiosk. Perfect for digital signage or anything you want to display on the screen and have the Raspberry Pi do all the work. Now, we're going to be using Raspbian Stretch Lite. Now this video tutorial is going to take into account that you already have Raspbian Stretch Lite installed and have access to it via an SSH in a terminal. Following this tutorial will result in a fully functional web-based kiosk with a custom splash screen during boot up, hiding the loading text and default Pi logo. Now what we'll be installing is Plymouth, so we have a custom splash screen. Since we're working with the Lite version of Raspbian, this is not included by default. OpenBox, so we have a window manager, Lite DM for our display manager, Chromium to run our kiosk, and Unclutter to hide our mouse cursor. So with that being said, let's get started and install our Raspberry Pi kiosk. All right, let's get started. All right, again, this video is taking into consideration that you already have Raspbian Stretch Lite installed and you're aware of how to SSH into it. So in my case, I'm going to be SSHing into Pi at 10.0.0.102, but your local IP address for your Pi may differ. It's most likely going to differ. And we're starting from a fresh install of Raspbian here. So this is, nothing's been done to this Pi except for the operating system being installed onto the SD card. So let's go ahead and log in. If you're using the default password, it's Raspberry, okay, the username Pi. So we're logged in. So the first thing we want to do, if you're in my boat here, where this is a fresh install, we're going to go ahead and change the password of Pi. Now we're going to use Pi as the user to log in. I'll explain more later, but that's going to be a dedicated auto login that will go through in the config of this process. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to change the password. So we're going to go with sudo passwd space Pi, and I'm going to change the password for Pi. So put in a new password. Okay, so we're good there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to create another user because we want to be able to use this Pi while Pi, which is going to be our auto login, is being used in a terminal. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in sudo add user, okay, and I'm going to call this Egon. You can make this whatever you want. All right, so it's going to ask us for a password. So go ahead and put a password in. It's going to ask for you for the password again. Okay, I'm just leaving all this blank. Okay, it's all correct. All right, and now we have a new user called Egon. Okay, but what we need to do is I want to give Egon sudo rights so we could do we can do administrative updates, access certain things. So I'm going to type in sudo, okay, user mod space -a capital G sudo Egon, which is a username, okay, and now Egon has basically, you know, owner rights or system owner rights. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to update the system. So we're going to type in sudo apt get update, okay, hit enter, and we're going to go ahead and let this go through. All right, now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and go sudo apt get upgrade, and we're going to do an upgrade. Again, this is a fresh install, yes, we want to continue, of Raspbian Stretch Lite. So I'm starting from the basic install, and we're going to get everything we need installed to have our kiosk going. This is just going to take a moment. Like I said, if you follow this tutorial, I've looked at, I'm involved with a project right now where I had to integrate a web application into a Raspberry Pi, and using the new versions, well, the new Raspbian OS, nothing really worked. This is what it takes to get this working. And if you follow this right now, you will have a working Raspberry Pi kiosk. So let's let this run through. All right, now that that's done, let's go ahead and reboot the system. So we're going to type in sudo reboot and give this a moment to come back, and we're going to log back in. All right, now that we're back up, let's go ahead and SSH back into our Raspberry Pi. And we're still going to be using the Pi username because we're going to need to set an auto login. I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and log in via SSH and put our password in, our new password, if you were like me and you created one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to install Lite DM, okay? So go ahead and type in sudo apt-get install Lite DM, just like I have there. I'll have all this in the show notes below, but let's get this going. Yes, we want to continue. And now we have Lite DM installing. All right, now that we have Lite DM installed, let's go ahead and configure our Raspberry Pi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clear out this window, and I'm going to type in sudo raspi config. Okay, now we're going to have a more graphical interface here. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to go down to network options. Okay, this is what I do. This is kind of optional, but I'm going to change the host name. Okay, so we're going to call this, take this out. By the way, if you change this after you do everything that I do in this video, you will have to change a single lock in the Chromium config file. And if anyone runs into that, just let me know. I'll tell you how to resolve that. So I'm going to call this Kiosk, okay, like that. All right, just it's a good thing to change here because, like I said, you'll have to do something after to fix that. All right, so now I'm going to go to boot options. Okay, remember I was talking about before where we needed to stay logged in as Pi? And this is the reason for that. So what we're going to do is go to boot options and then tab, so we have select, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to choose desktop /CLI, okay? And we're going to select that, all right? And then we're going to use the down arrows to go down to B4, desktop auto login, desktop GUI, automatically logged in as Pi. See, being logged in as Pi doing this is going to allow us to do that. So Pi is basically going to auto log in, and this will make a little more sense again later on, but we're going to go ahead and choose that, okay? So we have that set. So our boot options are set. So now we're going to go to localization, all right? We're going to select that, and we want to change our time zone, all right? Again, this is probably, optional, but if you're doing things that are time-based, you're using cron tabs and things like that, you kind of want to have this in there. So I'm going to go ahead and change my time zone, all right? And this will pop this up. So I'm going to go to US, tab over to OK, and now I'm going to choose Eastern, because that's where I'm at. I'm in Southwest Florida. So I'm going to hit OK, okay? And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to advanced options. So number 7, tab over to select, okay? And now what I'm going to choose is memory or overscan. We'll do overscan first. Okay, so select overscan. Now, would you like to enable compensation for displays with overscan? Now, if your display is large, chances are you're going to have like a border around it. So if you select no on this, it's basically going to be full screen no matter what. If you, like me, you're doing like application that's interwoven into this, then that's kind of important because you're going to have, a full HD screen going in your kiosk, but it's good to change here. So I'm going to select no, okay? Display overscan compensation is disabled. All right, I'm going to go back to advanced options, okay? Select that, and I'm going to go to memory split, okay? And I'm going to change this to 256, okay? That's what I do. It seems to run pretty good. I've been running a couple kiosks in over a period of time, and they've been running pretty good on some fairly large displays. So I'm gonna hit OK, okay, and that's pretty much gonna take me where I need to be. So hit finish. I'm gonna go ahead and reboot after these changes, and I will be back in a moment. All right, now that we're booted back up for the remaining part of this tutorial, we're going to be using the secondary user that we created, which in my case was Egon. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH this time with Egon at my local IP. Again, yours would be different, most likely, but that's what we're going to be utilizing from here on out. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH into Egon at my local IP and put my password in. Okay, now that I'm logged in, what we're going to do is we're going to remove all of this preloading information that we see when a Raspberry Pi boots up. The 4 Raspberry Pis indicating the cores on the processor and the startup dialog text. So we're going to go ahead and replace that. All right, so this is how that is done. What we're going to do is we're going to install Plymouth. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to type in sudo apt-get install Plymouth space Plymouth-themes. So type that in. Again, I'm going to have all this in some type of show notes and definitely on my website, wiredzero.com, but go ahead and type that in and hit enter. And you'll have to put a password in because we are using sudo. And yes, we want to install. All right, our next step is we're going to type in sudo space apt-get space install pix-plym-splash. Now, this is stuff that was missing. This was my hang up when I tried to do this. So this is a critical part. This is very important. This is going to make everything work. So go ahead and type that in and hit enter. And hit yes to continue. All right, so now on to the next step. All right, now it's time to upload our custom splash image. All right, now this is going to be named splash.png. All right, exactly like that. All right, so in order to start, what we're going to do is we're going to type in exit to log out of our active SSH session. Okay, I'm going to clear this out. And now what we're going to type in is scp/home. Now this is going to be totally different whether you're on Windows or Mac, or I'm on Linux right now. So I'm basically, my home directory is Egon. So I have the splash image on my desktop. So what you need to do is make the SCP and then the home where I have Egon, that needs to be the local location for your splash file. And what you want to do is you want to make sure your splash image, in my opinion, is 1920 by 1080. All right, so the first part of this is home Egon desktop splash.png. So the splash.png is on my desktop, on my Linux desktop. And then the remote or my SSH into my Raspberry Pi, which is Egon at 10.0.0.102. And then the home directory for my user, which is home Egon. And I'm putting the splash image in my home directory, which we're going to have to move out. But for now, this is what we're going to do. So go ahead and configure that to your scenario. And I'm going to hit enter and put my password in. Okay. And now it's transferred. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to SSH back into my Raspberry Pi using Egon at 10.0.0.102 and put my password in. Okay. And if I type in ls, we'll now see that my splash.png file is located in my home directory. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to move that into my Plymouth directory. And to do that, what I'm going to type in is sudo space mv space splash.png space /usr/share/Plymouth/themes/pix. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type that in and hit enter. And then put a password in because I'm declaring sudo here. Okay, and now that's in there. So we are good to go. Moving on to the next step. All right, now that we're still logged in, what we're going to type in is sudo space nano, my editor of choice, space / boot / config.txt. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to enter this in. Disable underscore splash equals 1. So that's disable underscore splash equals 1. And then hold down Control and hit O, hit Enter, and then Control X to exit. All right, let's move on to the next step. Getting closer. All right, now we need to delete a few lines from our Plymouth pick script. Okay, so what we're going to type in is sudo space nano space / usr / share / Plymouth / themes / picks / picks dot script. So go ahead and hit enter after you entered that in. All right, and now we're going to delete a couple things from here. So we're going to go down to the bottom. All right, so we're looking for these exact lines here. So the first one we're looking for is message underscore sprite equals sprite. So we're going to hit get on that line and hold down Control and then hit K. It'll take that out. The second one we're looking for is going to be right underneath it, which is message underscore sprite dot set position. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to hit K on that. All right, and that takes that out. The next one we're looking for, oops, wrong K. The next one we're looking for is my image equals image.text. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit Control K to take that out. And the one right underneath it, which is message underscore sprite dot set image, and then my image, we're going to hit K on that. All right, so we need to take these out. Now we're good. We can hold down Control and hit the letter O, hit Enter, and then Control X, and we are good there. So we can move on to the next step. Only a few more left, and we have our kiosk up and running. All right, moving on. Now we need to edit our boot command line text file. So go ahead and type in sudo nano space / boot / cmd line.txt. Okay, now what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do in here is we're going to go to console equals tty1, and we're going to change this to 3. All right, so we're not logging into the first session that's available. All right, and now what we're going to do is, if we can hit the down arrow, we can hit the left arrow to go to the end of the first line, and we're going to paste this in. All right, and I'll have the line here to paste in. Okay, I know I had splash in here twice. It makes no difference. I did it both ways. So this line right here in my instructions is just going to work. Trust me. All right, I put time into this. All right, so hit Control O, Enter, Control X, and then we are done with that step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install OpenBox. Okay, so let's go ahead and type this in. Sudo space apt-get install. And the rest of this I'll have in my show notes, so you can just basically copy and paste this so you have it exact. So let's go ahead and install OpenBox. And yes, we want to continue. We're getting there, people. You can have a kiosk in a short amount of time. All right, now that that's done, we have OpenBox installed. Let's go ahead and install Chromium. So let's go ahead and do sudo apt-get install. No install recommends Chromium browser. This should be a copy and paste for you. So let's go ahead and proceed, people. Yes, we want to continue. All right, now we want to edit something here. So let's go ahead and paste in sudo nano space etc / xdg / openbox / autostart, and then hit enter. Okay, now what we want to do is we're going to replace everything in here. So the easiest way to get rid of everything in this file, hold down Control, hit K, and just keep hitting K until everything's out. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to replace everything in here with the following. Okay, So I'll have this available for you to copy and paste in here. Now, the only thing you might want to change, well, you're probably definitely going to want to change, is the last section here. This is the URL that's going to pull up when we start our Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to just go to Google, but you can put whatever URL you want in here, right here, and it will boot up with your custom splash screen that we went over to this URL, okay? In my case, with my program that I developed that works with this, I have a specific URL, but that's where this is done, okay? So we'll hold down Control and hit O, save that, hit Enter, Control X to delete, okay? And now we have mostly everything done. A couple things we need to do. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the cursor, okay? So in order to get rid of the cursor, I'm going to clear this out, okay? And we're going to type in sudo space apt or apt dash get or get. So sudo apt get install unclutter. All right, so type that in, hit enter, okay? This takes a little bit, but we're not going to have that annoying mouse cursor on the screen with our kiosk, which is perfect. So we are done. All right, so now let's reboot by typing sudo reboot. All right, we just rebooted, and now we have our custom splash screen. Look at that. Our own custom kiosk with a splash screen. All right, and that should go right into google.com. So obviously you can change that URL in that config file to do whatever you want. Hope you enjoyed. Wiredzero out.